Hello again. I hope this finds you safe and well. We continue to live in strange times. We might have thought that by now we could be returning to something approaching normality, but it's clear we're now in this for the long haul. I was in central London a couple of days ago and I was struck by the relative emptiness of the streets. I was at Waterloo Station in what would normally be the evening rush hour, but there was no rush. I'd be surprised if there were 20% of the usual number of travellers in the station. People are staying at home unless they have to travel, and I personally feel they will continue to do so for a long time. Much has been written about a permanent shift away from centralised office working and towards working from home. It may be true that for those who already have substantial experience of working with others in the same place, we can draw on those established relationships to maintain something like an effective work regime using the internet. But that ignores the needs of people starting out in their work lives who do not have those established relationships. Starting work involves a whole range of accommodations to being with others, from the routines of tea breaks to casual corridor conversations, from putting your head around someone's door to ask for advice, to taking someone aside for a quiet word in their ear. Relationships over Zoom, by email, or even by telephone are necessarily more transactional and lack emotional breadth and depth. While there are exceptions, and they're usually for people who work alone anyway, such as writers, it seems to me to be generally true that for the mass of us, working from home leads to an impoverishment, not only in our work lives, but also in our personal lives. I had a conversation the other day. A real face-to-face conversation, in person, physically present in his office, with someone who said that while he could actually achieve most of his tasks from home, he'd been desperate for a change of scenery. As it happened, his office was out on a limb and almost nobody passed his door all day, but just the same, going into his office, even for just 1 or 2 days a week, was essential for his sanity. It was, he reflected, the whole package that made the difference. Making an effort to dress more smartly rather than slopping around in his jeans. Leaving the house. Taking buses and trains. Just being in different places. And finally, sitting in his office. At the end of the day, he made the journey in reverse and was genuinely glad to be back home rather than just being there all day, every day. He said that whilst he could not really explain it, he felt a lot better as a result. I suppose we could say that one explanation for this phenomenon is the old saying that travel broadens the mind, the reciprocal of which is that not traveling, staying in one place, narrows the mind. There is, I think, a real danger that from losing everyday physical contact with others, we quietly reinforce our own prejudices and cling more to our own opinions without fear of contradiction. Mark Twain, that great coiner of aphorisms, said, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness." That, I feel, is true even of such limited travellers going to and from a place of work. We need our sharp edges smoothed by rubbing up against others in informal contact rather than endless computer-based conference calls. All well and good. But some people cannot leave their homes for health reasons, and many of us will continue to spend far more of our time at home than we ever did before March 2020. What can we do to counteract the corrosive effects on our attitudes brought about by continued isolation? We can devote some time, perhaps, to reflecting on the meaning of life and the quality of life in this new reality. Mark Twain once more. The two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. This is about purpose, knowing the purpose in your life and working to fulfill it. Now, it may be that the continuing threat to us all from the coronavirus means that you cannot pursue that purpose in quite the way that you used to, but that is no reason to give up. The best is often the enemy of the good. As Christians, we look to Jesus to guide our lives and to give us that purpose. He famously summed up how we should live our lives in these words. The Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. How do we do this in a time of pestilence, in which it is all too easy to feel powerless? Perhaps one answer is just to do those things that are within our power, however modest they may seem, and with no immediately tangible result. We can avoid catching the virus ourselves, and vitally, we can take precautions not to spread it to anyone else. Washing hands and wearing masks, mundane though they may seem, are acts of good neighborliness. Making a conscious effort to keep open minds and resisting the temptations to turn in on ourselves and to cling to our prejudices is surely no less important to our common well-being. Let us strive to practice loving kindness. On which note, I leave you with a final word from Mark Twain. Kindness is the language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. Amen to that.